Welcome to channel 360. Today our topic is forensic anthropology, which is a specialized field within physical anthropology that applies scientific methods to analyze human skeletal remains in legal and criminal investigations. Now let's start today's video. Forensic anthropology, bridging science and justice. This presentation explores the fascinating field of forensic anthropology, delving into its methods, applications, and ethical considerations. Forensic anthropology is a critical scientific discipline within physical anthropology that examines human skeletal remains to resolve legal, historical, and humanitarian inquiries. By analyzing bones and teeth, experts reconstruct biological profiles, age, sex, ancestry, stature, identify trauma, example fractures, gunshot wounds, and estimate time since death using taphonomic clues. Techniques such as osteology, forensic archaeology, isotope analysis, and facial reconstruction enable precise identification and contextual understanding of remains. This field plays a pivotal role in criminal investigations, linking skeletal injuries to weapons or suspects, and aids in identifying victims of mass disasters, example plane crashes, wildfires, or human rights abuses, example genocides in Rwanda or Bosnia. It also solves historical enigmas, such as confirming the identities of figures like King Richard III or Tsar Nicholas II through DNA and skeletal analysis. Ethical considerations respecting cultural practices, collaborating with affected communities, and preserving evidence integrity are central to its practice. Collaborating with forensic pathologists, odontologists, and toxicologists, forensic anthropologists provide empirical evidence for courts while balancing scientific rigor with compassion. Their work delivers closure to grieving families, ensures accountability in justice systems, and uncovers truths buried by time or violence, embodying the axiom, "Bones tell stories, forensic anthropologists translate them." Now move to definition and scope. First is definition. Forensic anthropology is a specialized branch of physical anthropology. It focuses on analyzing human skeletal remains within a legal context. Second is its goal or scope. The primary goal of forensic anthropology is to identify individuals, determine the cause and manner of death, and assist in both criminal and historical investigations. Forensic anthropology, a specialized branch of physical anthropology, focuses on analyzing human skeletal remains within legal and investigative contexts. Its primary goals are to identify individuals by constructing biological profiles, age, sex, ancestry, stature, determine the cause and manner of death through trauma analysis, example fractures, gunshot wounds, and estimate the post-mortem interval using taphonomic clues. This field employs methods such as osteological examination, forensic archaeology for systematic recovery of remains, and advanced techniques like isotope analysis, to trace geographic origins, and DNA testing. Forensic anthropologists play vital roles in criminal cases by linking skeletal injuries to suspects or weapons, identifying victims in mass disasters, example plane crashes, wildfires, and resolving human rights violations, example genocide investigations. They also unravel historical mysteries, such as confirming the identities of figures like King Richard III or victims of historical atrocities. Ethical considerations respecting cultural practices, collaborating with affected communities, and preserving evidence integrity are central to their work. Collaborating with forensic pathologists, odontologists, and toxicologists, they provide empirical evidence for legal systems while balancing scientific rigor with compassion. Ultimately, forensic anthropology bridges science and justice, offering closure to families, accountability in legal proceedings, and a voice to the silenced through the adage, "Bones tell stories, forensic anthropologists translate them." Now move to key focus areas. 1. Biological profile, estimating age, sex, ancestry, and stature based on skeletal features. A forensic anthropological assessment estimating age, via bone fusion dental wear, sex, pelvic skull morphology, ancestry, cranial metrics, and stature, long bone length. These skeletal markers, analyzed through osteological methods, provide probabilistic insights into an individual's identity, aiding criminal, archaeological, or humanitarian investigations. 2. Trauma analysis, distinguishing ante-mortem injuries, occurred before death, from perimortem injuries, occurred around the time of death. Forensic anthropologists differentiate ante-mortem injuries, pre-death, showing healed fractures or bone remodeling, from perimortem injuries, occurring near death, with fresh, unhealed breaks. Ante-mortem trauma displays healing evidence, while perimortem fractures retain biomechanical features of living bone, critical for reconstructing events surrounding death. 3. Post-mortem interval, estimating time since death using taphonomy, the study of how remains decompose. Estimating time since death using taphonomy, which examines decomposition processes. Factors like temperature, insect activity, scavenging, and burial depth alter decay rates. Forensic anthropologists analyze bone weathering, tissue breakdown, and environmental context to approximate BMI, aiding legal investigations by establishing timelines for remains discovery. 4. Mass disasters, identifying victims in large-scale tragedies like plane crashes, wars, or natural disasters. Forensic anthropologists collaborate with pathologists and odontologists to identify victims in events like plane crashes or natural disasters. Using osteology, DNA, and dental records, they reconstruct fragmented or decomposed remains, cross-referencing with missing persons data to restore identities, provide closure to families, and support legal/humanitarian investigations. 5. Human versus non-human, differentiating animal bones from human remains to ensure accurate analysis. Forensic anthropologists distinguish human remains from animal bones using morphological differences, size, shape, skeletal markers like pelvis/skull, and comparative osteology. Microscopy, bone microstructure, and DNA analysis confirm species. This prevents misidentification in legal or archaeological contexts, ensuring accurate trauma analysis or victim identification. Next are core methods. 1. Osteology. In-depth analysis of bone structure, including examining skull sutures for age estimation. In this, forensic anthropologists examine skull sutures, fibrous joints between cranial bones, to estimate age. Sutures gradually close with age, starting in early adulthood and completing in older age. Patterns, example sagittal suture closure by 30s, and fusion stages are compared to standardized charts, though variability exists due to genetics, sex, and health. This method, combined with dental wear or pelvic changes, provides age ranges, aiding identification in forensic or archaeological contexts. Advanced imaging, CT scans, enhances precision, but limitations include individual variability and environmental effects on bone preservation. 2. Forensic archaeology. Systematic recovery of buried remains, using excavation techniques and documentation. Methodical excavation of buried remains using tools, trowels, brushes, and grid systems to map spatial relationships. Documentation includes photographs, sketches, and notes to preserve context. This ensures evidence integrity, avoids contamination, and reconstructs burial scenarios for legal investigations or historical/archaeological studies. 3. Facial reconstruction. Creating 3D models or clay approximations of facial features based on skull measurements. Forensic anthropologists use skull measurements to create 3D models or clay approximations, mapping anatomical landmarks and tissue depth markers. These reconstructions, enhanced by artists or software, estimate facial appearance for unidentified remains. While subjective, due to variables like age and ancestry, they aid cold cases or historical identifications by generating leads for DNA confirmation. 4. Isotope analysis. Tracing geographic origin through the chemical composition of bones and teeth. Tracing geographic origin by measuring strontium, oxygen, or lead isotopes in bones or teeth, which reflect dietary or water sources tied to local geology and climate. Teeth, formed in youth, indicate birthplace. Bones, remodeled over time, reveal recent locations. Matched to regional isotope databases, this aids identification of migrants or unknown remains. 5. DNA testing. Confirming identity through genetic material extracted from skeletal remains. Genetic material is extracted from bones/teeth, often degraded, and amplified, example PCR, to analyze markers like STRs or mitochondrial DNA. By matching profiles to relatives or databases, example CODIS, forensic experts identify individuals in crimes, disasters, or historical cases, overcoming degradation to ensure legal/humanitarian accuracy. Now have a look in applications in legal contexts. 1. Criminal cases. Linking skeletal trauma to specific weapons or suspects to aid investigations. Forensic anthropologists analyze skeletal trauma, fracture patterns, tool marks, bullet trajectories, to infer weapon types, blunt/sharp force, firearms. Comparing trauma characteristics, example blade width, impact angles, with suspect weapons or crime scene evidence supports legal cases, while collaboration with pathologists ensures accurate reconstructions of violent events. 2. Human rights. Documenting evidence of genocide or mass executions for war crime trials. Forensic anthropologists investigate mass graves to document genocide or mass executions. Using osteology and trauma analysis, they identify victims and determine causes of death. Their evidence supports war crime trials, example ICC, corroborates survivor accounts, and ensures accountability, while ethically engaging affected communities to preserve dignity and justice. 3. Historical mysteries. Solving identities of historical figures using skeletal analysis and DNA testing. Forensic anthropologists resolve identities of historical figures, example King Richard III, Romanov family, by analyzing skeletal traits, age/sex, and extracting DNA for comparison with living descendants or historical records. These findings authenticate lineage, resolve debates, and rewrite historical narratives, blending science with archaeology to uncover lost truths. 4. Mass disasters. Identifying fragmented remains for victim identification and family closure. Forensic anthropologists identify fragmented remains using osteology, DNA, and dental records, cross-referenced with missing persons databases. By reconstructing bodies and isolating individual profiles, they restore identities amid chaos, offering families closure and enabling legal/humanitarian processes to address tragedies like plane crashes, wars, or natural calamities. Let's explore some historical cases. The first one is the Rwandan genocide, where forensic anthropologists played a crucial role in identifying victims from mass graves and providing vital evidence for war crime trials. In 1994, an estimated 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were systematically massacred in Rwanda during a 100-day genocide. Forensic anthropologists played a pivotal role in exhuming and analyzing victims from mass graves, often hidden in churches, schools, or rural areas. Using biological profiling, they determined age, sex, and stature from skeletal remains, while trauma analysis revealed pervasive perimortem injuries, machete cuts to skulls and limbs, blunt force trauma from nail-studded clubs, interahamwe weapons, and gunshot wounds. DNA testing, though challenging due to tropical decomposition, helped identify fragmented remains by cross-referencing with surviving relatives. Collaborating with the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR, forensic teams documented evidence of organized violence, disproving claims of spontaneous riots. Their findings convicted key figures, like the Honest Bagosara, for genocide and crimes against humanity. Beyond legal accountability, anthropologists work sensitively with survivors, adhering to cultural protocols during exhumations and reburials. They preserved personal effects, clothing, IDs, to humanize victims, countering denial narratives. This work not only provided closure to families but also set precedents in international justice, showcasing forensic science's role in confronting state-sponsored atrocities and aiding societal healing. The second case is Tsar Nicholas II, where forensic experts confirmed the remains of the Romanov family using DNA and skeletal analysis, solving a long-standing historical mystery. In 1991, skeletal remains discovered near Ekaterinburg, Russia, were identified as Tsar Nicholas II, his family, and servants through DNA and skeletal analysis, resolving a decades-old mystery. Key steps included: extracted from bones was matched to living relatives, including Prince Philip, related via maternal lineage to Empress Alexandra. Nicholas II's DNA was compared to distant paternal relatives, confirming lineage. Skull fractures and gunshot wounds aligned with historical accounts of execution by Bolshevik firing squad, 1918. Nicholas's skeleton showed a healed leg injury from a prior assassination attempt. Bone development confirmed the children's ages, example Anastasia, 17, Alexei, 13. Alexandra's distinct dental work, gold fillings, matched pre-revolution records. Additional remains of Alexei and Maria, found nearby, underwent mtDNA testing, closing the missing two children debate. Contamination risks due to multiple exhumations were mitigated via advanced PCR techniques. Provided closure to historical narratives, disproving myths, example Anastasia survival. Reinforced interdisciplinary science, genetics, anthropology, in historical investigations. Remains were ceremonially reburied in St. Petersburg's Peter and Paul Cathedral, 1998, validating forensic findings despite initial Russian Orthodox Church skepticism. This case exemplifies how modern forensics bridges history and science, offering irrefutable resolution to enduring mysteries. The third case is the Boston Strangler, where forensic analysis links skeletal trauma to Albert DeSalvo's victims, providing crucial evidence in the investigation of the infamous serial killer. The Boston Strangler, 1962 to 1964, involved 13 murders attributed to Albert DeSalvo, who confessed but faced skepticism due to inconsistencies. Forensic anthropology played a pivotal role in linking skeletal trauma across victims. Analysis revealed hyoid bone fractures and ligature marks consistent with manual strangulation, a hallmark of the crimes. These patterns suggested a single perpetrator's method, supporting DeSalvo's guilt despite initial doubts. While DeSalvo was never convicted of the murders, imprisoned for unrelated crimes, modern DNA evidence, 2013, from one crime scene later confirmed his involvement. Forensic anthropology's identification of trauma patterns provided critical corroborative evidence, highlighting its role in resolving historical ambiguities and reinforcing interdisciplinary investigative approaches. Let's have a short look in ethical considerations. 1. Respect. Honoring cultural and religious practices when handling remains. 2. Community collaboration. Involving affected groups in human rights investigations. 3. Evidence integrity. Maintaining the integrity of skeletal remains for legal admissibility. Ethics are foundational to forensic anthropology, ensuring respect, accuracy, and justice. Practitioners must handle remains with dignity, honoring cultural and religious practices such as repatriating indigenous remains under laws like NAGPRA or facilitating Rwandan genocide reburials. Objectivity is crucial to avoid bias, particularly in high-profile cases, example avoiding assumptions in the Boston Strangler investigation. Collaboration with affected communities ensures informed consent and cultural sensitivity, as seen in Rwanda, where survivors guided exhumations. Evidence integrity demands meticulous documentation to prevent contamination, critical for legal admissibility. Transparency about methodological limits like the subjectivity of facial reconstructions or variability in isotope analysis maintains credibility. Ethically, the field prioritizes human rights over political agendas, impartially documenting atrocities for tribunals, example ICTR. By balancing scientific rigor with compassion, forensic anthropology upholds its role as a bridge between science and humanity, fostering trust in both justice systems and historical narratives. Let's have a look into interdisciplinary connections. 1. Forensic pathology, partnering with forensic pathologists to determine the cause of death. Forensic anthropologists analyze skeletal remains to identify trauma, example fractures, tool marks, and estimate time since death, while forensic pathologists examine soft tissues or organs for cause of death, example disease, poisoning. Together, they reconstruct events. Anthropologists link skeletal injuries to weapons, pathologists determine fatal mechanisms. Collaboration ensures comprehensive death investigations, especially in decomposed or skeletonized cases, example mass disasters, historical remains, merging osteological insights with medical expertise for legal accuracy. 2. Forensic odontology, using dental records for identification, comparing bite marks to suspects. A forensic discipline using dental records, X-rays, fillings, unique dental patterns, to identify individuals in disasters or decomposed remains. Bite mark analysis compares suspects' dental impressions to wounds, though controversial due to reliability concerns. While valuable for identification, ethical scrutiny emphasizes accuracy and caution in criminal cases. 3. Forensic toxicology, detecting toxins or drugs in bones, identifying potential poisoning. Detects toxins/drugs in bones using chromatography/mass spectrometry. Bones preserve substances like arsenic or opioids over time. Identifies historical poisonings, example suspected cases or modern overdoses. Despite challenges, degradation, low concentrations, it aids legal/humanitarian cases by linking toxins to cause of death, collaborating with anthropologists/pathologists. Career pathways. 1. Education. Master's or PhD in anthropology with a forensic focus. 2. Certification. Obtaining certification from the American Board of Forensic Anthropology, ABFA. 3. Work settings. Crime labs, universities, NGOs, and government agencies. Forensic anthropology requires a robust educational foundation, typically beginning with a bachelor's degree in anthropology, biology, or a related field. Aspiring professionals pursue advanced studies, earning a master's or PhD in anthropology with a forensic focus. Graduate programs emphasize osteology, bone analysis, archaeology, trauma interpretation, and forensic methods. Hands-on training through internships, fieldwork, or collaboration with medical examiners is critical for mastering skills like skeletal identification and taphonomy, decomposition analysis. Many programs also integrate coursework in statistics, genetics, and legal processes to prepare graduates for interdisciplinary collaboration. Certification through the American Board of Forensic Anthropology, ABFA, or in Pakistan Punjab Forensic Science Agency, PFSA, or the National Forensic Science Agency, NFSA, elevates professional credibility. Candidates must hold a doctorate, demonstrate casework experience, and pass rigorous exams testing theoretical and practical expertise. ABFA certification ensures adherence to ethical standards and methodological rigor, enhancing employability in competitive sectors. Recertification, often requiring continuing education, maintains relevance in evolving forensic techniques. Forensic anthropologists work in diverse settings. Crime labs and medical examiner offices employ them to assist in criminal cases, analyzing skeletal trauma or decomposing remains. Universities offer roles in teaching and research, advancing methodologies like isotopic analysis or facial reconstruction. NGOs and international bodies, example International Commission on Missing Persons, engage them in human rights investigations, identifying victims of genocide or disasters. Government agencies, such as the FBI or Department of Defense, utilize their expertise to recover and identify military personnel or victims of federal crimes. This career demands adaptability, ethical integrity, and a commitment to bridging science with justice, offering profound societal impact through truth-seeking and accountability. Now move to the conclusion. Forensic anthropology is a specialized field within physical anthropology that analyzes human skeletal remains to resolve legal, historical, and humanitarian inquiries. By examining bones, experts determine biological profiles, age, sex, ancestry, stature, identify trauma, example fractures, gunshot wounds, and estimate time since death. This discipline aids criminal investigations by linking injuries to weapons, identifies victims in mass disasters or human rights violations, example genocides, and solves historical mysteries, example confirming royal remains. Collaborating with pathologists, odontologists, and toxicologists, forensic anthropologists provide empirical evidence for courts while respecting ethical and cultural sensitivities. Their work delivers closure to families, ensures accountability in justice systems, and uncovers truths buried in history, epitomized by the adage, Bones tell stories, forensic anthropologists translate them. That's all for today. Hit like, comment below and share this video to your friends and family. Please do subscribe if you like to watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.